Let me just introduce the speaker first. The first speaker would be founder and CEO of nonosugar health tech Sendirian Berhad. Focus on creating health products that is healthy enough for us to consume.
So calorie in is equivalent to calorie out. In Malaysia, we have overweight individual, more than 50% of Malaysian. Right? So one day he came across fasting. Right?
Palm oil does not behave like a saturated fat. Palm oil 40% saturated against virgin olive oil, and we expect the palm oil will behave less effective in terms of heart disease.
Let me just introduce the speaker first. The first speaker would be founder and CEO of nonosugar health tech Sendirian Berhad. Focus on creating health products that is healthy enough for us to consume.
So calorie in is equivalent to calorie out. In Malaysia, we have overweight individual, more than 50% of Malaysian. Right? So one day he came across fasting. Right?
Palm oil does not behave like a saturated fat. Palm oil 40% saturated against virgin olive oil, and we expect the palm oil will behave less effective in terms of heart disease.
Let me just introduce the speaker first. The first speaker would be founder and CEO of nonosugar health tech Sendirian Berhad. Focus on creating health products that is healthy enough for us to consume.
So calorie in is equivalent to calorie out. In Malaysia, we have overweight individual, more than 50% of Malaysian. Right? So one day he came across fasting. Right?
Palm oil does not behave like a saturated.
Welcome to the first episode of No Sugar Longevity Podcast. Right? I'm your host, Jeff Kong. I'm a pharmacist. Together today, we have not one, but two fathers in the house. We have Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, the father of modern Malaysia. We also have Dr. Augustine Ong, the father of Malaysian palm oil. Okay, Dr. Mahathir, welcome to the show.
Dr. Mahathir, it's a great honor to have you on this podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Mahathir, because this is our first podcast, so we get a bit excited. Okay, together with my young partner here. Dr. Mahathir, the whole nation and the world was very concerned when you was admitted to National Heart Institute, IJN. So, Dr. Mahathir, can you share with us what happened?
Yeah, for some time I noticed that I get short of breath very quickly. Yeah. After even minor strain, like walking, it came to a point where I couldn't even walk a few yards. So I thought that there must be something wrong. So I called my doctor, and his advice was that I must be admitted. He cannot treat me in the house as an outpatient. I must be admitted. I accepted. I went there. What he discovered was that I am short of red blood cell. And when you are short of red blood cell, the take-up of oxygen is less. And when the body does not get enough oxygen, then you become very weak, and you try to breathe. And that gives the impression of breathlessness. You try to breathe when the blood is not taking in the oxygen. So their solution was very simple. They transfused me with packed red cells, 2 pints of packed red cells, increasing the capacity of my blood to take up oxygen. And almost immediately, I was able to breathe well. I could walk longer distance. So that was the first part of the admission into hospital. But later on, they told me that, well, I'm getting old and my heart will get weaker and weaker and it may stop. But they said that nowadays we have this pacemaker. If you have a pacemaker, even when the heart is weak, the pacemaker will stimulate the heart to pump. So they suggested I should have a pacemaker. So I agreed to have a pacemaker, but unfortunately during the course of the operation, or I don't know when, I became infected with some germs, and I became weak. I was not well at all, slightly feverish, and at that time I really felt that I was dying. I thought I was dying. So I said, these are my last days. So I was prepared to die. But the doctors did not give up. A panel of doctors looked after me, they discussed, they reached a conclusion as to what to do today, and they came to tell me that today we are going to do this or that, will give you transfusion or give you medicine or give you injection. And suddenly I found that I am recovering. I wasn't dying. I was recovering. I was able to walk and walk well. So I say thank you to the doctors.
Thank you. Dr. Mahathir, there are two things I can derive from this. First, I've just confirmed you are a medical doctor. So most of the things that you explain to me as a pharmacist and a scientist, okay. But for the young audience, maybe you have to Google some of the medical terms Dr. Mahathir have just described. Now, the other thing, right, Dr. Mahathir, on a more serious note, the medical advancement and the Malaysian healthcare have gone a long way in order to do and fulfill and for our lifespan to extend, right? I think the medical advancement is very, very important. Dr. Mahathir, moving on, Dr. Mahathir have been, known as an icon for longevity, okay? So to define an icon of longevity, first you must live a long life, okay? Healthy and also a fulfilling one, must have these three elements in that. So you fulfill all of them, and not only that, you are still going very strong, active, and kick-ass, we call it. So Dr. Mahathir, we are, together with my young partner here, Dr. Ong, we want to extract as much of your secret, and we want to do it in an organized way, because scientists organize very, in this way. So the first element that many audience have been looking forward to is this, your diet, okay? What and when do you eat, Dr. Mahathir?
Yeah, I eat almost anything, everything. But of course, later on, I found that there's sugar in my blood. So then I had to cut down on sugar and on carbohydrates, because even fats convert to sugar in the body. So I had to be very careful about sugar. But other than that, I eat almost anything that is put on the table. But my main discipline is that I should not overeat. I should not eat too much. I should avoid eating too much, because it will add to the weight of my body. And when you add weight to your body, you put a strain on your heart. And of course, the heart, I think, is designed to last a certain period of time. But when you put a strain on the heart, you shorten your life.
Okay, Dr. Mahathir, I just been through a few open house, during Ramadan, breakfast with our Malay Muslim friends. So the Islamic fasting is something that I'm very interested in. As you mentioned, Dr. Mahathir, the calorie restriction, like intermittent fasting, together with a low carbohydrate, healthy fat diet, have been proven with science to extend the life, not just animal, but really the human life. These are backed by science. So when it comes to Islamic fasting and the Ramadan that we have in Malaysia, during that breakfast dinner, I've seen amazingly how Malaysian warm up food, then drinks like the teh tarik, then the fruit juice, then the fruits, then the kueh. So that amount of food, you are wondering where it will go. So there's no wonder, Malaysian put on weight during a fasting month. And then after Raya celebration, it's a gone case. So Dr. Mahathir, I have just checked on you. I have not seen an inch of fat, extra fat on your body. So how do you fast?
Normally I eat very little. I feel that I should not overeat because the body does not need more food. It needs a certain amount of food. So I eat very little. And of course, I used to tell people that one of the rules I learned from my mother is that when the food tastes nice, stop eating. You see, because when the food tastes nice, you tend to eat more. And when you eat more, the stomach enlarges. And when the stomach enlarges, you have to eat more in order to assuage your hunger. But sometimes, after the stomach enlarged, you find good food again, and you eat more, and then the stomach grows even bigger. And because you take more food, you put on weight. Weight must come from somewhere. It comes from the food that you take. So I have always been very careful. Even though the food tastes nice, I thought enough is enough. I had to stop. And I have come to the stage where to me there is no difficulty in eating less, even when the food is nice. I have come to that stage. So it's because of that I think that my weight has not increased very much.
Right. So, Dr. Mahathir, what we learned is this, you are very disciplined, and also mothers are always right. Okay. And Dr. Mahathir, for the record, I know that you don't drink red wine and no alcohol, and for obvious reason. Dr. Mahathir, do you smoke?
I don't.
Okay, so we want to move on to the next important element, exercise, right? Exercise. Do you exercise?
Not as much as I should, but I do exercise. I walk, I do treadmill, and when I was, before I used to ride horses in Argentina. You go to Argentina and ride in the mountains, and I now cycle. I cycle. So that is the kind of exercise. It's not excessive. It's not to build muscle. Like some people, they want to build muscle. They do a lot of very strenuous exercise. No, I don't do that. I do treadmill maybe half an hour at about 35 miles an hour and things like that. And see, so I was not 35 miles an hour. I think that's too fast. But I did a moderate amount of exercise.
Right.
But most importantly is not to eat too much. Okay. If you eat too much, even your exercise doesn't help you.
Right. Dr. Mahathir, moving on, Dr. Ong, on.
Yeah, okay. Mahathir, and the 2 points I come to my mind, Interesting, you keep sugar low and no mention anything about fat. And this is actually the American in the campaign against palm oil has reversed. I think that is the right approach. The other thing I want to share with independently, what Dr. Mahathir said, we're eating less and don't eat when full food. To me, I want to be hungry before the next meal, so I don't eat in between. So anyway, so now I want to ask Dr. Mahathir this idea. No? So I've got a book from my daughter-in-law on 100-year plan. You know, I was reading about it, where psychology and economists. Then Sinclair shows the possibility of living the lifespan go even beyond 150. And then recently I come across another book on TCM on 100 ways of having a long life. You know, but the general public seems to get the idea that long life may be a burden to society. But I feel differently, you know. I feel this long life could be beneficial to society in this way. So I come up with a simple formula, 30, 30, 30 plus. So we spend about 25 to 30 years training, you know, from primary one on, and if you go to doctorate, postdoctoral, and so on. And then your first career is about 30 years. So, and then you retire about 60, right? And okay, some opt to retire completely, and but I felt that those who continue to follow what they are interested in, and the training plus the experience, and no cost, extra costs, because they already costed in the 30 years. It's a great benefit to society. Now, and then the idea of aging healthily, I give a general hope. As Dr. Mahathir, you say you're familiar with all this work going on in Harvard and many other places. So science, in fact, what happened to IGM also is an advancement of science. And I think we scientists very appreciate for, you know, you rather have it here than Mayo Clinic, you know. I met one of the cardiologists, he was so very encouraged and motivated that my Prime Minister, you know, wants me to operate on him. You know. So thank you so much for your support. And I think you have shown us how to be productive past 60, and you led government, our whole country for more than 24 years. So I think I want to give the message. Now, if this is the way 50% of the population today will live for more than 100 years, and we can prepare ourselves. You know. Maybe our training should be more holistic, wider interests, hobbies, so that we can continue past 60 to contribute to the country, you know, while giving excellent training in the first 30 years. You know, I want to get your idea. It's a very simplistic idea, but what your views?
When you are old, not very old, even if you are 30 years old, you always look back at your younger days and how wonderful it was and how you miss it. But when you think about age, at my stage, 97, I think of myself as the youth of my future. At 97, in 10 years' time or in 3 years' time, I'll be looking back to these years as the great days of my youth. You see, so when I come to think about that, I thought I might as well enjoy. This is the youth of my future. You see? So at whatever age you are, if you look back, of course, you find nostalgia. We're thinking about the past, how nice it was. You were in school. But when you were in school, there were times when you didn't enjoy life at all.
Right.
But what you remember is the part that you enjoy.
Good point.
So that present age that you are in is actually the youth of your future age.
Yeah, very
Because
good.
when you become 60 years old, you say, oh my God, 30 years old is fantastic.
Yeah.
Now I think of people who are 80 years old as being young people, and I miss that.
Yeah,
You
right.
see? So when it comes to that, I thought that, well, I might just live a nice life presently,
right.
because the present is the youth of the future.
All of you.
You see, so that drives you. And the other thing is, of course, society tends to treat old people as disabled people.
Yeah, this one is,
Wherever I go, I mean, I was practicing as a private practitioner before. I go to see my patient, and the old patient usually is in bed, always in bed. It's not necessary to be in bed. You can be up and about and active,
right.
but they treat old people as if they are bedridden.
Oh, yeah,
Or they prepare a nice bed for you, you lie there. When you lie in bed, you waste your muscle waste because it's not being used. You know about muscles. When you use muscle, they grow very big. But when we don't use, they become flabby. So when you ask an old man to lie down and not be active, you are actually sending him to the grave. Yeah, because you are hastening the process to the grave. So I always feel that old people should not go to bed and to do normal work, normal things as long as possible. Read, write, go about, see things, be active. Be active, then you use your muscle. You walk around, you do things, and your muscles use, and you use your brain. The brain is like the muscle. You don't use it, it deteriorates. But if you are using it all the time, arguing, talking, debating, and all that, the brain retains the memory. But if you, for a long time, you just go to sleep and do nothing and all that, most of the memory is gone. So it is important to be active and to make use of your brain as much as you use your muscle. That is very important. So age by itself is not, as I say, it's just a number. What is important is the health that you enjoy. And the health you enjoy is something that is quite controllable. Of course, if you have some disease like cancer and all that, you cannot do much. But if you don't have those diseases, you can live a life, live an active life, and that will enable you to function and not be treated like an oku, orang kurang upaya, a person with no. Actually, you have the ability, but they like to put you to sleep, they like to feed you, they like to treat you like you are sick and all that. That is bad. Don't treat old people like that. I refuse to be treated like that.
Right. Dr. Mahathir, on the quick note, right, a few things on the audience also want to know is like on the sleep aspect of it. When and how long do you sleep?
Well, I sleep at odd times. For example, if I get into a car, I immediately fall asleep.
Right.
If I get into a plane, I go to sleep. And I can sleep almost 13 hours to go to London. Yes. But when I go to bed, I find that I'm not able to sleep early. I go to bed early, but I stay awake. Of course, I do some reading and things like that. And it took me sometimes 2 hours, 3 hours before I fall asleep. But going to bed is important. Whether you sleep or not, you have to go to bed because it rests your body, but not too much rest. You see, if you keep on sleeping, you get very wet, very sick. But you should go to bed early, but do some reading and all the. Some people say their prayers and all that. That's all right, as long as your mind is active. But suddenly you find that the mind has stopped following your wish, because now you are asleep. You are not dreaming. You see, you are not dreaming. You see, you don't realize the period when you go from being awake and being asleep. You don't really know. All you know is that you have a nice dream or you have a bad dream, but then you only realize the next morning that, well, I had this dream, but you cannot remember what the dream is about.
Right. Dr. Mahathir, also on one very important aspect, when I read the book Capturing Hope, all right, my heart is pumping, and then once I start reading it, I can't put it down, so I finish it within 2 days. Now, on the emotional well-being of when I read the Doctor in the House, the stress, the anxiety, you know, all this will definitely put a toll on your busy lifestyle and your job and your career and your hobby. So how do you de-stress, you know? How do you make your emotionally calm? And when I talk to you now, we are very anxious here, but I can feel that your heart is not really beating that fast, you know. So, Dr. Mahathir.
Well, over time, I begin to accept the fact that there are certain things I cannot do, there are certain things I can do, and that I should accept what I cannot do and do what I can do. You see, there are certain things that you just cannot succeed in doing. That's all right, forget about it. Concentrate on what you can do. And when you concentrate on what you can do, you become more productive. But if you keep on thinking about things that you cannot do, you get very grumpy, you get very sad, you get very disturbed and all that. But you can't do it. You just don't do it. You see? Concentrate on the things that you can do. And there are lots of things that you can do. And when you concentrate on what you can do, you forget what you cannot do. So I mean, I don't get overexcited about things. You see, I can watch things or hear bad news even, and I don't react badly. You see, so I don't yell at people, I don't scold people, I don't know what my wife would say, but actually I have problem. Of course, everybody has problem with your partner. I have problem. There are certain things I can do, certain things I cannot. I say, okay, she's like that, I accept it. It's like that.
Dr. Mahathir, I want to ask, we are very impressed with your vision. How do you get this vision? Whether it's 2020 and so on, you know? I mean, I'm sure that when you first you come across this vision, something creative, overlooking, and when it's realized, you get further excited about it. So it's quite interesting because there is playing with ideas and getting idea vision, and that's why I've written here. Thank you for your visionary leadership.
Well, I read a lot, as you know.
Yeah,
when I was in school, I was made the librarian for my class. I get books. Every week I buy a magazine, and I read the magazine completely. And this influenced my thinking, that there are people who are doing things that are fantastic. The question is, why cannot we do the same thing? Why is it that these European countries are doing well and we are not doing well? When you come to the stage where you can do something, I became Prime Minister, I can now do something. So all those things that I have looked at and noticed, and in my travels, for example, I traveled to Japan after the war. I mean, the Japanese were not very pleasant people during the war, but after the war they were very nice. And I noticed that these people have rebuilt their country in double quick time. You know, they lost the war. 2 atom bombs were dropped on Japan, but they were already recovering. By the time I went there in 1961, they were working hard because they were going to be host to the Olympic Games in 65. So why is it that they can do and we cannot do? There is no reason why we cannot do. We can do. I believe that we all have the same capacity between us, but the question is application. Do you make use of the ability that you have, the capacity that you have? So when I became Prime Minister, all those things that I observed in other countries, all those things that I read in the magazine as a schoolboy, all those things came back to me. And even what my teachers said and all that, they all came back to me. And I thought, now I can do this thing. You know, I can do this thing. I can get people to do things. So how do you do that? You plan. You have a vision. You want to be a developed country. But the most important thing is how. You can have an ambition to be a developed country, but if you don't know how, you cannot achieve it. This is what I learned, that when you want to suggest something, figure out how you're going to make it a reality. Yeah.
Right. Dr. Mahathir, for this extending life, there's one very important element. That's support and surrounded by your loved one, right? And your wife, your family, your friends, and your allies. For those of us who are married, we know that either our partner is going to help extend our life, or the other way around, they will probably shorten our life. So, on Dr. Mahathir, what do you think of this? And also, can you share with us, you like to tell a story. So can you share with us the story of what happened on the 23rd of April, 1949? So at that particular moment, what happened?
Well, we have already become close friends, I would say, and we used to go out to eat sotong and all that in Tanjung Pagar or some place in Singapore. And then I discovered I didn't have money. I didn't have money to pay. So I had to borrow the money from this girlfriend, and she lent me $5. So somehow or other, that becomes something very intimate. And by then I think we have made up our minds that we had to be together. That's all.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Mahathir. Dr. Mahathir, we are coming to the final part of today's podcast. Now, there are two questions that we're going to ask you, rather difficult one, and I would go first. All right. The first question, Dr. Mahathir, imagine this: after many years, all right, and it is your last day on earth, right, and you have accomplished everything that you ever dreamed of, right? So, what are the 3 lessons that you want to leave with the world, and for Malaysian and also for the world? Dr. Mahathir?
You know, when I became Minister of Education, the instruction I gave was that no one should name schools after me. They shouldn't name schools after me, because I don't want this very artificial act to influence my thinking. I don't want to be identified. Whatever I do, it is something that anybody else can do. But I refuse to have my name attached to anything. So you don't see any school, any road, any building named after me. That is on my orders. And see, I don't want to be remembered. If people remember at all, it is up to them. But I am not going to do something to make people remember, to leave a monument and things like that. Until now, and Augustine would know that they wanted me to be, to have something awarded by the Academy, to have my name. I refused for a long time, but they they hassled me, and finally I agreed. But you will notice that nothing, not many things are named after me. Because for me, eventually people will demonize you. And those who appreciate you will appreciate you. It doesn't matter what I think, what I want to live. I want to do the right things that I think is right. What people think after that is up to them. So I don't want to leave some legacy. Everybody asks me, what is your legacy? I don't have a legacy. If people want to recognize something I have done, that is their business, not my business.
All right. Well said.
Okay. So, Dr. Mahathir, we have many great people, and you are most outstanding. How do you view about greatness? What is your vision or your interpretation of a great life?
Yeah, that you use your life, your asset, to the best of your ability, in the interest of the people and the future. But you don't talk about it. You don't talk about it. You don't say, oh, I'm doing this because I want to be recognized. No. You do it on your own because that is what you are capable of doing. For example, when I became Prime Minister, I suddenly realized that I can do many things which I couldn't do before. So during the period I was Prime Minister, I was identifying one after another, the things I could do, and I did. What people think to me is not important. And people call me a dictator, call me bad names, demonize me. I say it's all right. It's their right to say whatever they like about me. But I am satisfied that I have given my best for the country, for the future, for the people. What happens to me doesn't matter because I'm going to die.
Well, it's a very good example for us to follow, our icon. Sacrifice his life for the people.
Right. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We come to the end of our podcast. So.
Okay. So we'd like to thank you, Dr. Mahathir, and Tun Sri Asma, and to you for your leadership and your services, and wish both of you a long and healthy life. Thank you.
And for the audience, and just watch out for our second episode on longevity. And we would, having a scientist in the house, so we would verify what Dr. Mahathir have shared with us with Tun City, and to look into whether Dr. Mahathir is actually sleeping and also doing what he just claimed. So with that, thank you so much for the audience. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.